There are 5 Aussie pantry foods that basically never go off, and supermarkets are quietly making a fortune because most people do not realize how long they actually last. We are talking about products that can sit in your cupboard for years, even past the best before date, while Woolies and Coles still convince you to bin them and buy more at full price. Stay to the end, because I will show you exactly how to use these foods to slash your grocery bill and protect your family from both food waste and fake freshness marketing. Australians have been trained to fear dates on packaging. If it is past the number on the lid, it must be deadly, so we throw out kilos of perfectly good food every year and then hand more cash to the same supermarkets that printed those dates in the first place. Food standards, Australia. New Zealand is crystal clear. Use-by dates are about safety. After that, food should not be eaten. Best before dates are about quality. After that, food may lose taste or texture, but is often still safe if it looks, smells and tastes normal. Yet consumer surveys show up to a third of Aussies do not really understand the difference, which means we are literally throwing money in the bin. But here is the twist. There are a handful of pantry foods where, if you store them properly, the science and the regulators basically admit they last for years, sometimes indefinitely. These are the only products where it actually makes sense to buy the cheap brand, buy the big bulk bag, grab them when they are on clearance, even close to or just past best before. Let us count down the 5 Aussie pantry foods that never go off in any normal sense and how to buy them smart. Number 5. Real honey. Capilano, Beechworth and supermarket brands. We will start with the sweet one. Walk down any Aussie supermarket aisle and you will see big 1 kilogram tubs of Capilano, fancy glass jars of Beechworth honey, cheaper Coles and Woolworths home brand squeezy bottles. Most people see the best before date on the lid and think honey somehow expires. But chemically, honey is almost immortal. Food scientists and beekeepers agree. Honey has very low moisture and high natural acidity, which makes it extremely hostile to bacteria and mold. In sealed containers at room temperature, honey can last indefinitely without spoiling. That is not internet myth. Detailed reviews of honey storage show that crystallization, when honey goes thick and grainy, is not spoilage. It is just natural sugars rearranging and the honey is still safe to eat. Archaeologists have literally found edible honey in ancient tombs thousands of years old. So why is this a big deal for your wallet? Because when you see a slightly crystallized jar in the cupboard or a best before last month stamp, you do not need to throw it out and buy new. You can gently warm the jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling water to reliquefy it. Keep using it as normal, as long as it smells and tastes like honey and has not been contaminated with water or crumbs. The front label suggests pure honey, best before a certain date. What it really means is this will probably outlive your mortgage if you store it properly. If you have ever binned honey because it looked cloudy or the date ticked over, that is money you did not need to spend. And if you think that is impressive, number 4 is the quiet base ingredient hiding in half your pantry that might actually last longer than you do. Number 4, dry white rice, Sunrice and supermarket brands. Every Aussie pantry has some kind of rice. Big Sunrice bags, Coles or Woolworths home brand long grain, little microwave pouches. Let us ignore the pre-cooked stuff and talk about uncooked dry rice, especially white rice. Food storage research is very clear. Properly stored uncooked white rice can last for years, and some experts say indefinitely if kept cool, dry and sealed. The big difference is brown rice, which contains natural oils in the bran that go rancid faster, usually within 6 to 12 months at room temperature. One detailed guide summarizes it like this. Technically, white rice can last indefinitely if stored properly. Brown rice, plan to use it within a year or store it in the fridge or freezer. So if you keep white rice in an airtight container, store it away from heat and moisture. Check now and then for pests or off smells. It is one of the safest bulk buys you can make in an Aussie supermarket. The bag tells you best before 2027. The reality is, if it has been cool, dry, sealed and bug-free, that date is mostly about quality, not safety, and white rice stays usable for years beyond it. Supermarkets make their money when you buy lots of tiny, expensive microwave pouches instead of one big, cheap bag of rice that could feed you all year. But if you think white rice lasts a long time, number 3 is the protein version that beats it. Number 3, dried beans and lentils. Mackenzie's Global Organics bulk bins. Dried legumes are the sleeping giants of the Aussie Pantry. We're talking about Mackenzie's red lentils, chickpeas and soup mixes, bulk bin beans in IGAs and independents, Global Organics or macro-dried legumes. They look humble. They are dirt cheap per kilo compared to meat, and their shelf life, stored properly, is insane. Food storage experts say dried beans and lentils can have a shelf life of up to 25 years if processed and stored correctly in truly airtight, cool, dark conditions. More mainstream advice says they are best within 1 to 2 years, but remain safe to eat much longer. They just may take longer to cook and lose a bit of flavor. The key is the same as rice. Keep them in a cool, dry, dark place. Use airtight containers to block moisture and pests. Avoid heat sources that can speed up oxidation and discoloration. Why does this matter for you? Because most Aussies treat dried beans like they are fresh produce. They see a date. They let the packet sit for a year, then they chuck it and grab tins instead. In reality, that old bag of lentils in the back of your cupboard is probably still perfectly safe. Worst case, it might need an extra 10 to 15 minutes of simmering to soften. The branding sells high protein, great for soups and stews. What it does not shout is, this is one of the most cost-effective, longest-lasting proteins you can buy in the entire store. If you bulk buy dried beans and lentils when they are on special, you are essentially locking in years of cheap, stable protein, while everyone else keeps paying full price for fresh meat that goes slimy in 3 days. And if you think that is good, number 2 is the tinned cousin that the regulators themselves admit can outlast its own date. Number 2, canned foods. SPC, Egel, Ardmona, Coles and Woolworths house brands. This is where things get really interesting. Look at the canned aisle. SPC baked beans, Egel chickpeas and corn, Ardmona crushed tomatoes, Coles and Woolworths home brand tuna, fruit. It all has dates on the top or bottom. But dig into Food Standards Australia New Zealand guidance and you will see something most shoppers never notice. Food Standards Australia New Zealand explains that canned foods are heat-treated and sealed to prevent contamination by bacteria and spoilage organisms. Because of this, canned foods kept at room temperature in intact cans have a very long shelf life. Here is the bombshell. Food Standards Australia. New Zealand says that canned foods with a shelf life of more than 2 years do not even need a best before date by law. Quoting their guidance on canned foods that have a shelf life of more than 2 years do not need a best before date. As long as the container remains intact, canned foods have a long shelf life, even at room temperature. So what does that mean for you? If the can is not bulging, rusted through, badly dented or leaking, and the contents look and smell normal when opened, then even if the date is long past, the food is often still safe, though quality like texture and color might slowly decline. That includes staples like canned tomatoes, baked beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, tuna and salmon in cans. Supermarkets know most people do not trust anything past the printed date, so they can mark it down slightly and you think it is risky, when Food Standards Australia New Zealand is effectively saying if the can is intact and was processed correctly, the real shelf life is measured in years, not months. The label tells you best before 2026. The science says as long as the can is sound, this could still be okay in 2030. You just might not win a tomato tasting competition with it. If you want to hedge against price shocks, supply issues, or just have true emergency food, tinned goods are one of the safest, longest-lasting things you can stack when they are on special. And if you think that is the top of the shelf life food chain, number one is the king. Number one, salt and sugar, Saxa, CSR, and every home brand bag. At the very top of the list sit two pantry basics that are so stable they are literally used to preserve other foods. Salt, Saxa, Olsen's, Malden, Coles and Woolworths home brands. Sugar, CSR white sugar, raw sugar and supermarket brands. Professional food safety sources explain why these are special. Both salt and sugar bind water and lower what is called water activity, making it impossible for most bacteria and mold to grow. That is why we use salt to cure hams and sugar to make jams shelf-stable. One scientific overview puts it bluntly. As foods in their own right, if salt and sugar are stored away from moisture in airtight containers, they will last indefinitely. There are some footnotes. Iodized salt can slowly lose its iodine content over years, so it might not deliver the full nutritional iodine benefit forever, but it does not suddenly become unsafe or rotten. Brown sugar can harden if exposed to air, but that is a texture issue, not spoilage. You can often soften it again, so if you keep your salt and sugar in airtight containers, store them away from direct moisture and pests, you have genuinely non-perishable pantry items. Yet what do most Aussies do when they see a slightly clumpy sugar bag that is past date? Panic. Toss it. Buy another 2 kilograms full price. The front of the pack says best before, then a random year. The underlying chemistry says, as long as this has not turned into a wet brick full of bugs, it is fine. These two ingredients are also your weapons against other foods spoiling. Think salt brines, sugar in jams and chutneys, curing and pickling. If you ever see sugar or salt on clearance because the best before is approaching, that is when you should feel like the supermarket sucker-punched itself. Now let us talk about how to actually use these never-go-off foods to your advantage. You do not need a bunker, you just need a smarter relationship with the boring end of the supermarket. Here is how to turn these 5 foods into a defense system for your grocery budget. Move 1. Treat best before as a quality guide, not an automatic bin date. For these long-life foods, honey, white rice, dried beans, canned goods, salt and sugar, learn the difference. Use by equals safety. Do not mess with it. Best before equals quality. For dry, low-risk staples, you can often safely use them after this date if packaging is intact. No water damage or pests. Smell and appearance are normal. Food Standards Australia, New Zealand and Food Bank have both had to publish explainers because so many Aussies throw food out unnecessarily. Move 2. Buy these 5 categories in bulk when they are on genuine special. When you see big jars of honey marked down, 5-kilogram bags of rice on special, trays of canned tomatoes or beans with long dates, sugar and salt clearance lines. That is when it actually makes sense to stock up. Unlike fresh meat or salad bags, you're not racing the clock, not gambling with listeria or salmonella, not forced to eat the same thing every night for a week. These are the foundations of cheap meals a year from now as much as today. Move 3. Build meal templates around long-life bases. Use your non-perishables as the backbone and just rotate fresh items around them. Examples. Rice plus beans plus tinned tomatoes plus spices equals endless variations of curries, stews, burrito bowls. Honey plus oats plus nuts equals breakfasts, snacks, baking, granola. Salt plus sugar plus vinegar equals pickle brines, quick chutneys, preserving seasonal veg when they are cheap. That way, even if fresh produce jumps in price, or meat specials disappear for a few weeks, you still have dozens of full meals sitting in your pantry, already paid for at last year's prices. Move 4. Be picky within each category. Not all brands are equal. For honey, buy from reputable Aussie producers to avoid the global problem of adulterated honey with cheap syrups. Independent tests have found some imported honeys overseas, diluted with rice or corn syrup, which do not have the same eternal shelf life properties. For canned foods, always inspect cans for bulging, heavy rust or severe dents. Food standards, Australia. New Zealand is clear that intact containers are key to long shelf life. For rice and beans, store them in hard, pest-proof containers, not thin bags that mice or pantry moths can chew through. Final message and call to action. Supermarkets make their biggest money when you live week to week. Tiny top-ups, panic buys, throwing out and rebuying because a date ticked over and you do not trust what is in your own cupboard. But the truth is, a smart Aussie pantry built on a foundation of honey, white rice, dried legumes, canned foods, salt and sugar is one of the simplest ways to cut your food bill, ride out price spikes, and stop wasting perfectly good food. You do not have to become a prepper. You just have to stop treating long-life foods like lettuce. If this video made you want to raid your pantry before raiding your wallet, tap like so more Aussies understand which foods actually last for years. If you want more deep dives that protect your plate, your health and your family from both ultra-processed junk and supermarket price tricks, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. That is what this channel is here for. Now tell me in the comments, which of these 5 foods surprised you the most? Do you have expired honey, rice or cans sitting in the back of your cupboard right now that you are suddenly looking at differently? Drop your story below, and if you want a follow-up episode on which pantry foods really do go off faster than you think, let me know.